for joining us again on another episode of the Command Journey podcast. I am your host, Michael Diamond, back with another fantastic guest, which we'll get to in a minute. I would like to thank you, the listener, and those of you who have subscribed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We greatly appreciate your listening ears. And now, in Command Journey fashion, what I'm going to do is turn the microphone over to our guest and let them introduce themselves and tell us a bit about who they are. So, guest, take it away.
Thank you very much. It's me, Richard Kasslack from NVT Phybridge. Happy to be here today. A little bit of background about me. I live in Canada, Oakville, Ontario, Canada. I've been here my entire life, born and bred. I started my career many long years ago in the information services technology realm. I worked at one of the largest newspaper chains here in Canada and installed one of the first automated dialers for outbound and inbound telemarketing call center. And this was before there were call centers. So, and it was based on a Unix platform. And I happen to have a Unix background. And I took that and I spent almost 20 years there. Then I joined a large financial services company here in Canada, one of the largest. And I ran their IT for them for about 7 years. And during my journey, I also had founded my own internet dial-up startup company in 1992. One of the first, again, in Canada to offer 56K dial-up at the time. We had the equipment that was shipped from the US. It was never installed in Canada before. I actually had to help the telco configure it to get it working. And we were pretty excited about that. And one of my first customers was that large financial services company that I talked about before. And when we wound down the internet startup company, I actually joined the financial services company full time, ran their IT. But a few years later, my partner, the original one of the founders of our internet dial-up startup, Oliver Emanuel, approached me and said he had this fantastic idea and he wanted to meet. So I met with him and he told me the stories. I hadn't seen him for about 5 years, and he had come up with this concept for this fantastic product. And he told me about it. I said, I love it. What do you need? And he says, well, we need to raise some money. So because I was working at a financial services company, I actually knew a few people that had some background in that. I put him in touch with John Croce, as a matter of fact, who I worked with at the company, who's the CEO of our company now. And I said, you guys go build this. And when you have the first one, I'll be your first customer, because it was such a great idea. And I actually installed the product and I loved it so much. I said, look, I need to go and tell more people about this. So I quit my job about 6 months later, and I've been here ever since. And this is my 15th year. A little bit of a long-winded intro.
No, it's okay. That's a good depth and breadth. I actually like a good intro and a good story we can all walk along. And it's not called the Command Journey for nothing. Our journey, of course, brings us a little bit more forward in time than 56K modems, although to our audience, I will say, if you are knowledgeable enough to understand the revolutionary product that 56K modems were at the time when they came out, boy, is this interview for you, because we're going to talk about modernization and one of the ways that NVT Phybridge can modernize a lot of the networks that you have running out there, or client networks that are running. So for our audience who's maybe not yet familiar with what NVT Phybridge is and what you offer, tell us about the company and what you bring to the market.
Thank you. Absolutely. So first of all, think of the name NVT Phybridge. It's actually a combination of two companies. So the company that I started with was Phybridge, and Phybridge invented the world's first Ethernet and PoE multi-port enterprise-grade switch to run on a single pair of telephone-grade wire up to distances up to 2,000 feet. So it was targeting the customers that had a legacy phone system, basically. Here in Canada, 85% of customers had a Nortel phone system, and they were end of life, end of sale, and all kinds of stuff was happening. They just before, this was just around the bankruptcy time for Nortel. So there was a lot of scrambling going on. And there were certain customers that had major challenges in moving to an IP-based network and putting their voice onto it. It could be a prison, it could be a hospital, it could be many different organizations. Myself, I was one. So we were looking to move from an old Nortel to a new IP system, and the timing was great because I knew about Phybridge, and we actually did a pilot and put it in, and we ended up using it. So for me, the issue was in our building. We were in a 10-story building. We had users on 4 different floors. They weren't contiguous. It was 8, 7, 5, and 2. And our phone system was in the 7th floor data center where we were providing dial tone to the entire building. Now, traditional network thinking, I was told you have to go into each floor, into where you have your data closets that are connected to your computers right now. You have to upgrade all the switches to PoE. Oh, and by the way, you need to put backup power in those closets because we didn't have backup power in there at the time, as well as cooling, because you're going to be generating a lot more heat with these PoE switches than you would have with your standard switches that I had in those closets. Oh, and by the way, new cabling, because we had Cat5 cabling. So we were all this was going to cost us double what the phone system was going to cost. So Phybridge came to us and said, hey, you can use your existing wire that's providing dial tone to the existing phone and put PoE and Ethernet on that. All you do have to swap out your old phone, put a little converter in, and you've got an IP phone. And we did that. We installed 300, almost 300 devices in a single evening on a Thursday. We decided to bite the bullet on a Thursday night. Started at 5. We were done at about 10 o'clock. And the next morning, everybody came in with a brand new IP phone on their desk. So again, as I said before, very impressed with that. And then I joined the company. Partners came to us and said, "This is fantastic," and a lot of interest. And then they came and said, "Look, there's another area that we're having struggles and challenges in, and that's in the physical security space. Cameras, access control, intercoms, all of these things that go with physical security are very similar to the voice. They're running analog for the most part systems. They need to move to IP as IP started to become popular. And this was just after we started, probably around 2014. And so we said, hey, all we need to do is take our switch and instead of having telco Amphenol connectors on the front, put coax on the front. And there we go. So the world's first Ethernet and PoE over coax multi-port enterprise grade switch that goes up to 2,000 feet. And then the last piece of the puzzle was our flex switch, which is a regular PoE switch up to standard reach. And then there's a little adapter that you can introduce, and you can go up to 2,000 feet on any Cat3 or better cable on 2 or 4 pairs of wire. So as we started to do this, we got the attention of a company called NVT, who is in the analog transmission space. Those of you that are in physical security probably have heard of NVT over the years. They had come out with their own single port extender, which a lot of other companies have as well. They were asked to create multi-port switches basically for some of their larger deployments. And there were a couple in Europe in some correctional facilities. Having a 300 of these one-to-one extender type solutions just doesn't make sense. So they looked to build I think it was a 16 or 24 port switch using the same technology that was in the extender. Now, unfortunately, that extender was designed for no more than 4 devices. So their product didn't work and they had a problem. So they wanted to OEM our product, the Phybridge product. And instead, we looked at the math and we talked to the owner and we decided to buy the company. So in 2015, we bought NVT. We're now NVT Phybridge. First thing we did was swap out the units that were not performing with ours. Worked like a charm, and it's been history ever since. So we've adopted the NVT line, those extender products, excellent products, and a lot of the other products that NVT had, along with the complementary products from Phybridge. It just makes for an all-around solution. So we say any wire, any type, and extended distances up to 8,000 feet, actually. Some of our products will go that far.
I think that just from seeing use cases for the product line, I see a lot of potential for it when we talk about the need to upgrade older networks, especially when it comes to adhering to NERC SIP guidelines for utilities and for a lot of stuff in North America that is old. And the big pain point for a lot of dealers is go in, you talk to the customer, they absolutely love what you have to offer. It doesn't matter if it's intercom or cameras or access or whatever your product is, they love it. And they say, well, how much is it going to cost for us to replace the wire? Not just the copper, but the labor repull in and of itself. What's the potential downtime when it comes to these systems? So I think it's a vastly competitive product for what the market needs. And I have seen a lot of customers become very interested in the product when they hear about what it can do. But I wonder if you've taken us a little bit through how some of the product has evolved throughout the years. I wonder if there's a specific example that you could give, say, in the past couple of years that you have seen your reps bring in, say, well, this is the challenge, this is how we need to meet the challenge, and then maybe how the company's product and solutions really overcame that in a functional way.
I tell you, we hear it every day pretty much. We have a customer that has a specific challenge, and we say, well, we can fix that. One that comes to mind just 2 weeks ago, nuclear facilities. Their phones are end of life. They're looking at and other devices within the facility. Intercoms may be one of them as well that we talked about. But yeah, you cannot pull a cable in a nuclear facility. You can't. It's like they tell me it's an act of Congress to have to do that kind of thing. You're talking about disruption time, just as you had mentioned before. These are huge things, and it can't be done. Period. It will not happen. Correctional facilities are another one, and you can't do it. You can't move. You have to move people around. It's the cable that is nothing. It's all the other stuff. Hospitals. When you pull cable in a hospital, you have to tent. You have to tent it while you're moving every 3 or 4 feet. Just putting the cable in is anywhere up to $2,000 a drop. So these all go away. The time, the disruption, the huge costs, and it's across the board. So I can tell you an interesting story that I think everyone might enjoy. One of my first out of town visits was in Chicago, and I met with another financial services company in Chicago, downtown Chicago. They had about 1,500 users in the building. They had a really old phone system there from Rome, and it was end of life. They were looking to move to a new IP solution. And I met with the CIO, the network team, the telco team, and we were all in a room. I brought the product, and they were looking at it. They understood immediately how it worked. And then the CIO said to me, well, what is this going to cost? And I said, well, you know what? You're probably looking at anywhere for the voice solution on the street, about $250 a drop. Let's call it $250 a drop, something like that. He says, are you really? I said, absolutely. He said, okay, well, I have 1,500 users here, so we'll do the math quickly here. You're talking about $400,000? I said, yeah, probably. What if that works out to be? I don't have my calculator on me. Well, he says, I just got a quote from our contractor and to do this building, recable, new switches, new closets, all the things I talked about before, $1.8 million. And he says, you're telling me you can do the same thing for $400,000 that I'm going to spend $1.8 million on? I said, absolutely. He said, I can't believe it. I said, great. I'm going to give you a switch. I'm going to give you a handful of the converters. Your team can go and deploy them and try them out. And we went, did it. Took a couple of weeks. They called and asked for more adapters because more people wanted the new IP phones. And about 6 months later, they ended up doing the purchase. And what was really cool, they told me afterwards, their original plan was to swap out the phones and only provide dial tone, nothing else. Everyone was going to get the cheapest phone that they could get, and they were only getting dial tone for dial tone. In years 2 and 3, they were going to introduce things like call recording, mobility, call accounting, and some advanced call center type of applications. The reason why, because they didn't have the money in year 1 because they were going to spend so much in infrastructure. Well, guess what? I saved them $1.4 million. Everyone in the building got a color phone, the best phone available, and they got all those features and functionality that they didn't think they were going to be able to afford until year 3 right away, out of the gate. So the ROI on that was massive for them. And that's the type of thing that we're kind of painting the picture with customers and saying, really, it's not about the technology, it's about the business of technology. What kind of business drivers does the technology, the new technology, allow you to go and experience? And we're saying, don't spend it all on the infrastructure. Use the savings for these applications and better devices.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've had some experience to commend here with the product line too, and we can concur on some of those same sort of ideas. I think the dealers here that are working to do modernization solutions, which many of them are, and it could be corrections, or it could be elevators, or it could be any number of potential products, hospitals, like you mentioned. A huge game changer is to get that pain point, the major one, which is wire pulling, the copper associated with all the labor, the time, the disruption, and then be able to go in with a solution that fits what the customer needs, gives them what they want, and doesn't include all of the excess overhead associated with it, right? And they can get their upgrade not in 2 years, not in 3 years when the budget finally cycles around again, but right now. And that is what helps drive that dealer business as well with channel partners for many businesses, many manufacturers like Commend, where they can realize those products and realize those projects in the now. And I think that's pretty critical. So it's clear that in 10, 15 years, you've done a lot of innovating. And so what I'd like to ask then is, what's on the roadmap for NVT Phybridge? What comes in the next couple of years that you might be able to enlighten us about what you're working on?
All of our enhancements and things that we look at come from feedback from our partners in the field. There's one requirement. Our existing Ethernet over coax solution has the coax and the RJ45 on either end of the adapter. And we've been asked by some of our installers if we could put them on the side so they could fit into a junction box much easier. And we're doing that. There's a big push for BT power, which is high power, up to 90 watts power. So we've got our team working on that right now. We've just got regulatory approval for the adapter. So that'll be coming out in the next little while as well. We're looking at some enhanced data delivery products to go, over multiple hops. Right now, our products have to be point to point. We're looking at being able to overcome multiple hops and taps and those types of things. That's been a big thing for us for a long time. Our customers have asked. It's not huge, but it's something that's been a pain point. So our partners have asked, and we're complying. We want to help, and we're very open. Everything is made here in Canada. All of our design engineers are here. Our manufacturing facilities are here, and we're agile, and we're not too big, so that we can actually take your feedback and we can implement those things, and which we do. So those are the things that are on the short horizon, and whatever else comes into the fold as far as requirements go, we'll be looking to put it through its paces.
Absolutely. Okay, I wonder if our listeners are interested in finding out more about what NVT Phybridge has to offer. Where would they go? Where can they find you?
The best place would be our website at www.nvtphybridge.com. Everything's there. There's a live chat. We've got live people there that if you ask a question, they'll be there to answer it. These are technical people for the most part, so they'll know where the buck stops, so to speak. That's the best place to go. There's lots of videos available on YouTube. If you Google them, you'll even see some old ones from me 15 years ago. For if you want to laugh, go and have a look. I had brown hair and a brown beard at that time. But yeah, but it'll show you how the products are implemented and have some fun as well. And of course, our products are available readily across globally. We're sold globally, so we do have presence all over the world.
Fantastic. So, Richard, I want to thank you for joining us on the Commend Journey podcast today. I greatly enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to the future and what NVT Phybridge offers.
I did too. Thank you, Michael, for having me. I enjoyed your questions.